do you find best practices and beneficials for the current education curriculum for students?
Well, the current education system is inefficient for black children, period, across the board. Because you should have our educational system revise their curriculum and make those things focus strictly on the differences that black children have over other children. Black children come to school with disabilities and emotional baggage that no other child has coming to school. And so you need to revise the curriculum and pick up black children where they are and prepare them to deal with the future, which means they got to have an understanding of who they are, how they got where they are, and where they need to be going. And that's the dilemma, because otherwise they're going to perish, they can't compete.
But from 1948 to the present time, they had only appointed 30 black federal judges. Wow. Keep that in mind. And that was in the history of the United States. They put over 1,400 whites in up to 1948. Now here's Donald Trump. He's already approved something like 30 or 40 federal judges already stacking the court against you all.
Right, right.
So you're gonna never get into justice. Right. Now here's the thing that amazed me. I said, how is it that out of the 30 black federal judges have been appointed since 1948, how the hell did Claud Anderson appoint 3 of that 40? What's the rest of the black folks been doing? Now I'm telling you, if I could put 3 on there, out of the 30, what are the rest of the black politicians, civil rights leaders been doing since 1948? Now maybe y'all don't understand what I'm telling you. And see, when what Trump is doing, he's stacking the court, so you are going to make it for injustice. I got to my point, I'm going to talk about it, but set up the court for you, so y'all understand the system. You're locked and boxed. Just like you got locked and boxed back in this, when they first set up the United States Constitution for you all. I said, read my books. When they ratified the United States Constitution in 1789, the first thing they did next year was put out a first immigration and nationalization law, which said this is a white country. Yep. Only whites can come in and get benefits. You black folk, you get nothing, zero, zilch. You're classified as property, 3/5 of a human being. You can feel that. There's nothing in the Constitution for black folk. I still see all these blacks in these demonstrations and the civil rights marching. We're just looking for our rights. You don't have any rights in the Constitution. You have nothing in there. They were talking about you. I said, you don't understand? Well, no, this is so far. No. The United States Constitution was the first affirmative action plan in the entire United States. It was an affirmative action plan only for whites. You get nothing out of it. They said, but when we looked at the first words, it says that God gave all human beings have a God-given right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I said, no, they changed that. It was supposed to be life, pursuit of property, and your money is property. That's what but Thomas Jefferson took that word out, property, and just put it in happiness to make sure, because they are set up a system to lock you all out. And I'm not going to go through all that history again, but I want you all to understand it. And then later on, we'll jump ahead, because I'm going to make sure you understand the context. There's nothing in the Constitution for y'all. That first Constitution is strictly for whites. But you have 2 constitutions in the United States. I can't find most of our civil rights to understand that. You got 2 constitutions. The first Constitution was 1 through 12. That was strictly for whites. That's why you couldn't get anything until after 1861, after slavery ended. But in the meantime, in that process, a thing came into effect to back up all those judges. It was called the United States Supreme Court to finish locking you all in. And the United States, and most people never tell you this, but the United States Supreme Court, what they've been doing now, they don't have authority to do. When the United States Supreme Court came into existence, they could only do 3 things. 1, it can get involved in an ambassadorial appointment. 2, it can get involved in the removal of a federal official who failed to do his duty. And 3, they can offer their opinions in a lower court case decision. They have no authority over anything pertaining to black folk. Now, why is that important? Because after slavery ended, black folk had about 9 civil rights laws, strictly and solely for black folk. The United States Supreme Court nullified and ruled as unconstitutional. and got away with it by the ways that came. Now, how did they do that? Because you see, the Supreme Court back in 1803 in the Marlborough-Madison decision, they took on authority they don't have. So you see Donald Trump appointing these people to the United States Supreme Court. They don't have that authority to do the thing they're getting away with. But I would say the black scholars challenge it. But in the Marlborough-Madison decision in 1803, the federal court, the Supreme Court said, we're going to get involved in some of these issues. They got involved and got away with it in 1803. Didn't make any difference. They just slid right on by up until about 1857. In 1857, you had what's called the Dred Scott decision. At that point in time, you had a black man who had been a slave in Missouri. He finally went up to Illinois for a summer or two. And when he came back, he said, I want my freedom. I'm a free man now. And they said, no, you're not. You're still a slave. So he wound up going to the federal court, but subsidized by a few liberals. And then the court, Judge Taney ruled in the United States Supreme Court in 1857 that a black man has no rights that a white person bound respect. You Negroes have nothing. Same thing I'm telling you in the Supreme Court. You have nothing. You have no power, no wealth, no resources. You are a pawn, period, to be used and misused to enrich others. And they ruled that in 1857. Now, when Civil War broke out, here's where the thing gets tricky for you. So I get them, I'm laying it down for you for getting my points with you today. It gets tricky at that point. So when slavery ended, and the Civil War broke out, and ended in 1864, 1865, about 20 liberal white Republicans. They were liberals. They were called radical Republicans. Only they were radical, they're going to take on some black issues. And why were they taking on black issues? Because they had black mistresses and black children. That's what Howard University came from. Okay? And it was set up strictly for the children from white congressmen who had black babies and black women, not as mistresses. And that's the only people that go to Howard. But see, when they came into effect, when the war ended, they said, hey, there's only two that say you're a special people, exceptional people. They set up a new constitution, the second constitution. They said now, 1 through 12 is for whites, but anything we set up is strictly for blacks. Period. Nobody else. And so they put the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment for black folk. Period. And they said, we're also going to put in a couple of civil rights laws that correct the conditions that black folk have been subjected to. The 13th Amendment says that it is now mandated that in all situations that black people, newly freed slaves, must be treated in a manner similar to the way how white people are treated. Now that's very important, but you got to understand what he's saying, the way white folk are treated. Now let's take an issue like immigration. Immigration doesn't hurt white folk in America. That's a part of their complement. That's why in 1790, as I told you, they started bringing in immigrants, because all the immigrants coming to the country were classified as whites. And they came in and guess what? They wiped you out, your ancestors out. They came in to displace you. They came in, immigrants come in this country not to get along with you or compete, to be your friend. They come in to compete with you and get all those advantages and privileges and rights, and resources that you never got. It's been going on ever since 1790, it's still going on. Immigrants come to this country are not coming here to get along with you, they come here to get over you and get ahead of you. That started in 1790. But I still see all of our civil rights leaders going down to the board and saying, y'all come on, y'all come on. And see, that violates the 13th Amendment of the Constitution. That's your Constitution. That is your Constitution, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment of the Civil Rights Law. Then the 14th Amendment was enacted. They said now that every level of government is mandated to lift the badges and instances of slavery off the shoulders of black people. That's the 14th Amendment. It didn't say anything about midgets, humpback people, hemorrhoids, ingrown toenails, gays, midgets, or transsexuals, or women. You all gotta wait to smell this coffee time to tell you about it. That's the 14th Amendment. But that's the black folk, mostly, they don't understand that. Then the Civil Rights Law says that we got to go back to the Dred Scott decision about that 40 acres of the mule. And they said the same thing, that civil rights is economic rights for black folk. Civil rights is economic benefits for black people. Civil rights was not designed to be anything but economic benefits for black folk. to correct the Dred Scott decision of 1857. You put the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment together. The 15th Amendment says the only people that's been coming to this country for 360 years, they never had a right, they never had a problem voting. The only people not allowed to vote are black people. People say, Dr. Anderson, I disagree, that's some women. No, that's a lie. Women can always vote. The white women can always vote. Nobody deprived women of the right to vote. On the property, you got to own property to vote. That's why white women couldn't vote, because they didn't own any property. But nobody could stop them otherwise from voting. And all the stuff you see about women's rights. Women always had all the rights they wanted. Remember, white women co-own, co-control, co-influence, and inherit 100% of everything the white master had. She was deprived of nothing. She got everything she wanted. And the difference is, you got black women running around now who don't understand these issues of the 13th Amendment, trying to join the white women's movement. Saying, we're sisters. If you were a sister, why in hell was she in the field picking cotton with you? You all have to explain this to me. I don't understand it. And white women were the ones who were second in charge on the plantation. She was the one that whipped the black women's ass and the children's asses with a whip. And she received and got everything that the white man had, period.
She was the one that raised it?
That's right. So I said, where are black women, where do black women get this from? It's what Dr. Anderson got to understand also, that some of the white women, that was the only problem. It's a gender issue. Besides black women, they also want to join the gender group. I was like, what? They said, because we got gays and transsexuals. I said, now who started that mess? Barack Obama. Now here he is on the front, on the Time magazine, on the cover, saying the first gay president in America. Go to Time magazine. Yeah, there's his picture. He started that. Saying, we got to be concerned about all people. Now I say to black folk, gayness, there's nobody ever was hauling butts out across the world, bringing them into America, and enslaving them because they were gay. Imported slaves had to end in 1808. That's in the Constitution. We'll read the Constitution. And it's actually a problem for all the slave masters. They said, well, we can't import one of those Negroes. Where are we going to get them from? They said, bring in the women. And use the women. Because see, they carry babies in their stomach. Yep. So guess what they started? They started one of the biggest industries to make money during slavery. Was called breeding. They started breeding black women in the breeding states of South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. That's what they used black women for breeding purposes. And one of the biggest things, hiring them out to people, having studied by white men or by young boys. Men, some of them, like Long Gone Silver, what's the guy's name now? Eddie Long. They just send them out to breed the women. The biggest black men, go breed the women for us. You're in stud service. I'll rent you out to the other farmers to do your stud. And then ran out of that, guess what happened? They just started using young black boys to make money off of it. Now, you don't hear a word all the time. It's very common to the black community. But whites don't understand. Blacks do. It's called MF. Oh, you MF, you MF this, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Every black loves to use that word. I hate that MF. You don't know where that came from? Because at that point in time, they started studying women. They ran out of white men, because white men was going to bed with everything on his plantation. Impregnated so he can get free babies too. But all of a sudden they ran out of them, so they started taking the young black boys, and they got about 15 or 16 that they forced black boys to impregnate their own moms.
Yep.
And they took those babies and sold them for money. And so what I'm saying is that this whole thing was set up as a social construct. That's in the book I brought back today, my book, Black Lady. It tells you all this stuff. And I tell black folk, how are you going to compete with white folk if you don't understand any of this stuff? How they make money. They make money off of you any way they can It could. They made money off you by gender, by religion, and everything else. Now let me the gay thing. By gayness. People say, well, Dr. Anderson, gays, they need to be, right now they're talking about putting gays, the Democratic Party putting gays into a protected class. Yep. I told them, hell, gays own slaves too.
That's right.
As a matter of fact, Buchanan, the president of the United States right before Lincoln, he was gay.
Yep.
And one of the biggest slave-holding groups in the United States in the major capitals in New Orleans for slaves. The biggest slave owners were 2 white women who were gay, 2 lesbians.
Wow.
And they based much money had a big restaurant, the biggest restaurant in New Orleans. It was called the Two Sisters Restaurant. You go to New Orleans right now, there's Two Sisters Restaurant still there. They own all the slaves and they were gay. I said, nobody beat up on no gay people. Nobody was lynching gay people. The only people that lynching, whipping, beating, and enslaved were black folk. And so I said to black folk, you got to understand this stuff. Right. And you got to start sticking up for yourself and fighting for yourself. Quit trying to look out for the world. You are the bottom line. You're not a permanent underclass. Everybody has used you and abused you and made money off of you. Every ethnic group, every gender group, every transgender group, and every religion. And in terms of religion, I don't mean any offense to you. The first people that started enslaving black folk were the Arabs.
Yep.
Arabs started enslaving black folk in about 765 AD. They started marching into Africa in what they call the search for the 3 G's, God, glory, and gold. They said, we're going to take over this damn place. This place got everything you need to survive. So they started enslaving black folk, started trying to take over Africa in 765. They fought like hell trying to get there, but it was too hard for them with all those jungles. And a lot of blacks had a lot of ferocious blacks. A lot of blacks were fighting back. And so they fought with black folk in about 12th century. In Timbuktu, they finally took over took over. Why? They had a black named Mansa Musa.
Yep.
He was running around now over the Ghana empire. He started sprinkling gold. I'm going to go deal with the Arabs. And I'm having to take 100,000 people with me. We're going to sprinkle gold and silver all on the road. And that got the Arabs very interested. So after 1200, they took over Timbuktu. And started mandated everybody in Africa had to learn their religion and name their kids in Arabic names. And so religion also became a negative for black folk, just like Christianity did. The Catholic Church was one of the biggest enslaver of black folk. Why? Because you see, when Henry the Navigator went off the coast of Africa in 1445, and he picked up 16 blacks off the coast of Africa, and he took them back to Europe. He took them straight to Portuguese, then gave them to the Catholic Church as slaves. Yep. The Catholic Church used blacks as slaves. Now, up until that time, the Catholic Church has been a protector of slaves, always trying to save their souls and protect the slaves. They gave those blacks to the church, Catholic Church, in about 1445. They used those blacks up until about 1488. But in 1488, all of a sudden it became such a good thing that one of the Catholic popes, named Pope Innocent, he says, we got a good thing going on all these poor blacks. We use it for labor. We use them for studying and anything else. And now, so we're going to change the whole focus on who could be a slave. Because prior to that time, the Catholic Church and all that religion had always authorized who could be a slave. You could only be a slave for 3 things. You had to be a slave, you had to be either for personal indebtedness, or for religious reasons, or for combat, prisoner of war. Those are the only 3 reasons to be a slave. The reason I'm making this point to you, because you got to deal with this Fox channel I was talking about. We always had slaves, nothing special about black folk, we always had slaves. That's a lie. You had slaves but based on those 3 things. Being a prisoner of war, personal indebtedness, and religion. But by 1488, Pope Anderson changed the whole game. He says in the future, we found out those slaves we had in the Catholic Church, that's a good thing. And in the future, don't worry about enslaving people for being prisoners of war or religion. Go get some of those blacks. And that was started in 1488. And at that time, that whole thing changed. And by 1500, that's where racism started. Racism then started. Why? In 1500. About about 15 years later. It started because the European society was going down the torch. They were overrun with famine, diseases, crime, and everything. And they need to resuscitate, rebuild the country. They said, how can we do it? So Columbus had come back about 10 years earlier and said, I found all this land over the Americas. And it's free land, only got a few people over there, and between people, just like any race. A race is a contest, whether a bicycle race, automobile race, or horse race. You're competing. You're competing. And so 9 European nations started competing. They get to America, South America, Central America, and owning all the land, and using black folks' labor to enrich themselves. That was the competition. The competition around the world was who can get most blacks, sell them, make money off of them, and use their labor. And so that started what's called a race that went on for 300 years, 1503 until about right on the eve of the Civil War in 1859. All of a sudden the race ended because whites only controlled everything. So the race ended. They took the E off the race, R-A-C-E. They took the E off and stuck a suffix on there called I-S-M. ISM means maintain the prevailing conditions. And so racism was a competitive relationship between Europeans trying to use blacks. And once everybody got rich, they said, don't let the conditions change. By not maintaining sufficiency and the conditions, that means don't be opposed to affirmative action, preferential treatment, and anything, reparations, anything for black folk. So that's the nature of racism. Racism is a competitive relationship between groups other than blacks. Now, a black person cannot be a racist in conclusion. It is impossible in theory and practice for black people to be a racist. You don't own and control anything. You cannot subordinate, dictate, and imprison, enslave, Jim Crow, segregate, and say what a black person can do in marriage, white people can do in marriage. You can't control white folk. A racist means you control everything you want to control. Now they say, what is black folk? That blacks can only react to white racism. That's like if I pull you out of a car right now, I'm a white racist, a white police officer, and I said, I got a stick, I've been beating niggas' heads now for 50 years. Now what is racism? The blacks say, I've been ducking white folks like you for 30. So the only thing a black person can do is a reactor. He can react to white racism. He cannot be a racist. There's no, how about Farrakhan? Farrakhan doesn't have the power to control white folk. You cannot have a black racist. So you start raising these issues and coming together when we're talking about, always remember that you got to do what you have to do to go back and correct slavery. The thing that slavery took from you is 2 things. It took you from your fruits of your labor. Right. They made you work for 360 years free. And then they gave you cheap pay for another 100 years under Jim Crow segregation. Right. They deprived you of the fruits of your labor. That's what slavery did. Slavery deprived you of the fruits of your labor. And second thing it deprived you of was your social cohesiveness, where you cannot come together at any time, any place, anywhere, and do things in your own interest. They told black folk that you cannot have a self-interest. A slave cannot have a self-interest. Now, what does all these things mean to you? It means now we got to do things to play the game a little different. You got to play the game to win. And so anybody, when you start talking about and hearing about anything about slavery, don't be BS. You tell us, if you want to talk about slavery, go back to the original intent of slavery that Dr. Anderson told us. What was the original intent? Before I get to that, I wrote 2 books that told you why you were special people. Dirty Little Secrets 1 and Dirty Little Secrets 2. I gave you 1,000 episodes of why there's nobody on earth like black people. That on the earth, there's nothing had happened on this earth that you had not caused or been indirectly or directly involved in. Okay. You are the most exceptional people on earth. You're more exceptional than any whites, Asian, Arabs, or anybody blacks coming from the Caribbean or even Africa. You are special people. Because you've been mistreated, maltreated longer than anybody. You hold the record for having been mistreated, maltreated, and enslaved longer than any other human being in the history of the human being race. You're the oldest people. Nobody's ever been enslaved for 360 years, and Jim Crow semi-slave or nothing but black people in America. That makes you unique. That's why you got to say that. Based on those 2 books, Dirty Little Secrets 1 and Dirty Little 2, that tells you you're special people. Now, go back to what I said about the other thing, black labor, white wealth. I put that book out. to show you what was the purpose of slavery. I have never in my life ever seen a white person or a black person get up and tell white folks what was the purpose of slavery. They always want to emotionalize it. Well, it's because they lynched my mother, they beat my daddy, and they knocked my son down, or they would follow me around a Target store around shopping. That ain't no damn, that's not racism, and it had nothing to do with slavery. Slavery is depriving you of what? Here it is. Slavery was designed to maldistribute or misdistribute 100% of all this nation's land, minerals, rights, privileges, wealth, income, and controls of all levels governed to the hands of the dumb white society. They deprive you of one thing that you need. If you don't get it right now, we are through in this country and on the earth. They deprive you of your labor. Now, we get these jacklegs that show up on TV talking about, we never about reparations. I said, go home and read before you come back on TV. You don't know what you're talking about. What was the point of slavery? Well, we're going to reparations. What reparations for what? Well, we want to go to, I don't know. That's the biggest thing. What black folk have to understand, what they deprive you of is what you can't get now. Slavery, first thing, was deprive you of land. That's the key, land. Why deprive you of land? Why? Because you see, the biggest determination of what you're going to be in the world is based on what you own and control. How much wealth you got. Wealth comes out of labor. If you don't have, if you can't, labor, you can't have wealth without labor. You have to, somebody has to labor. So when you deprive 30 or 40 million black folk of their labor, you enrich everybody that owns slaves. White whites that stole your labor, stole your wealth. That's why right now you're the poorest people on earth, both in Africa and now the Caribbean nations and here. They stole your wealth by stealing your labor. And so right now, black folks still own and control their wealth the same thing they had when they came out of slavery. In 1861, you had 1/2 of 1% of the wealth of this nation. Here you are 150 years later, you still own and control only 1/2 of 1% of the wealth. You cannot compete. You cannot do anything with no wealth. Forget about, they tell you about civil rights and social integration. Unless you go back and say that those amendments are strictly for black folk. Do not let other people come in and say they want to use the civil rights and the 13th, the 14th, the 15th Amendment for their cause. Women, gays, midgets, humpbacks, and immigrants are not entitled to the 13th, the 14th, and 15th Amendment of civil rights laws. But they get away with it because you don't demand anything. You demand nothing, that's why you get nothing. And that's why they had this little thing up there about reparations. You wait for me to sit down, right? Okay. They had this thing about reparations. The blacks didn't know what to ask for because they didn't understand what the point of slavery was. They didn't know to ask for land. Land, and right now they're going to decentralize and gentrify all the major black cities in the United States to take the land back from you again. Washington, D.C. used to be known as Chocolate City. They're going to strip you of this. They're going to strip Detroit, Philadelphia, and now everything. You're going to lose everything. They're going to take the land from you. And a lot of our black people think they just offered me $100,000 for my house, and I'm going to PG County. They're going to strip you here, and then strip you again in this PG County. If you don't have the wealth, you don't own the land, you're through. Now, let me conclude by saying this now. Now, these people talking about reparations, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know enough of the stuff I just gave you all the day to be able to stand up the whites. So they said, well, we want reparations. And whites, here's some of the things the whites will say. Well, why do we owe you reparations? We paid you already. You said, how'd you pay me? Well, we set you all free from slavery. And we gave you social integration. And most blacks don't even know that social integration took you backwards. The worst thing that ever happened to you was called social integration. You lost everything you used to have. Black folk only controlled more in terms of rights and businesses in 1920. Per 100,000 people, black folk own 20 times more businesses in 1920 you own today. So if white folks say, well, we set you all free, we gave you all. What you should be saying is, show me, what'd you give us? What'd you give us? And you show yourself, we're worse off now. We're now officially, according to the United States Department of Commerce, as the 2014 census, You're now a national permanent underclass. You're an underclass of nothing but beggars and crows. That's in their national reports. You're through. And the whites said, well, what we did, why should we give you reparations? Because all the slaves are dead. You said, well, if that's true, then why are you still giving reparations to Indians? All the Indians are dead that lived back in those days. They said, well, Indians are claiming natural rights because their ancestors walked across the land. You said, fine. These 30 or 40 million blacks, they plowed the land, grew the land, yield to the land. It's like blacks got natural rights to the land too, based on your stolen labor, they worked the land. But see, well, they said, well, how about well, we can't give you any reparations because what is it? Yeah. Oh, they said, yeah, well, I know because Joe Plummer says, why are he gonna let you take money out of his pocket to give to black folk? You said, well, now I would say to him, let me tell you something. You took money out of black folks' pockets. When you gave out the 0.4 reparation to the Japanese, you gave them billions of dollars. That money came out of black folks' pockets too. You gave $6 or $7 billion in the Marshall Plan to rebuild Germany after World War II. That came out of black folks' pockets. You gave Jews $24 to $30 million in this country to help them as Holocaust. That came out of black folks' pockets. I said in history, right now, when black folk could not go to school because it was against the law, guess what? Every non-enslaved person in America had to pay $5 to help white folks go to school, even though they couldn't go. And the voting, even though blacks couldn't vote, guess what? Every black male had to pay $5 so that white folk could have polls and go vote. They said, well, how about that? Everybody's gotten reparation but you. Reparation means repair. You got to be prepared to deal with these people and these issues, and I hope you are. And I'm not going to take you any further in this, but I want you all to understand these issues. You got to read, and that's why I put out those 5 books that I wrote for you back there, called the Library Pack. They're back there. I wrote Library Pack so that you know everything. The Black Labor White Wealth book tells you exactly what your problem is. You don't own and control anything to be a sufficient people. You don't have enough wealth. And right now, even if white folk got 98% of the wealth, that's why they own everything from New York to San Diego. You own nothing. Every piece of machinery, house, building, apartment, everything. You don't have enough wealth. And 1% you can't compete. And worse thing, the same thing in Africa. You make black folk in this country with 13% of the population own 1/2 of the wealth. Guess what? If I were to take all the blacks in Africa and the Caribbean and lump them together, you make up 24% of the world's population. Guess what? You still have only 1/2. And now Asians and Europeans are taking over Africa. You're going to steal everything from them. And so what I'm saying is you got to learn that wealth is the key. Even if white folk in America don't acquire any more wealth, stop as of tomorrow and say no more wealth for whites. No more wealth, even though white folks right now get every year, 87% of the money they get is not earned. They don't earn it. They get it from unearned, stock accounts, budget accounts, interest, from mortgage, from money coming in from rentals. Whites say, but you gotta have a job. 87% of the money whites get, they don't earn it. It's unearned. They want you to go earn it. But right now, if a black folk can catch up with white folk are right now, if white folks quit having money as of tomorrow, it'll take you 239 years. Take you now 239 years to catch up with white folk are now. And if they stood still and waited on you. Because why? Because you don't spend your money in the right places. You give away all your money to whites every day. You spend 98% of every dollar comes in your hand, you give it to whites. You give the other 3% to non-blacks in your neighborhood. You got a $1.3 trillion worth of money passing through your hands. You won't practice group economics, group politics. You take pleasure out of go get it and give it other people your money. And I used to white blacks was asking down there in Texas, said, Dr. Anderson, how do whites get all these beautiful homes and all these big ranches and all this land, living well? Where do they get the money from? I said, it's your money. You keep giving it to them. Every white person in America, every Asian in America, every Hispanic in America, and everybody in America, they got 2 incomes. Because you see, they boycott your neighborhood, your businesses. And so you give them your money, so they live off of 2 incomes. They keep 100% of their money in their neighborhoods and in their communities, and they get 98% of yours. So the average white person gets 198 cents to live off of, you got 2 cents. And that's why white folks tell you right now that you black folk, you only get 2 cents. You only own less than 1/2% of anything of wealth and value. That's why you Negroes aren't worth 2 cents. And I love and thank you all, okay?